everyone, welcome back to our homestead. Today is a cold and rainy day and I've decided to make some hearty soup for my family for dinner. And I was inspired by this brand new apron that I received from my sister who just returned from Italy. And I've decided to make something Italian inspired. So I've decided to make a soup, very hearty, thick soup. It has a Tuscan flavor to it. But as always, I'm gonna put my own twist to it. So the main ingredient is gonna be white beans, but not just that. I've decided to use some Italian sausage. So let me show you the ingredients I'm gonna be needing today. And I'm making a big pot. I'm gonna make a big pot because I want it for today and I want it for tomorrow. All right, so things I'm going to need. As I mentioned, I'm gonna use some sausage and I'm gonna remove the casings of the sausage. I'm going to be using these beans, and 1/3 of it I'm going to actually mash it into a puree, and the other 2/3 I'm going to keep it whole. Then I'm going to be using some tomato. This is chunks, crushed tomatoes, but you can use any kind of tomatoes you want. Then I'm going to be using my homegrown potatoes, some celery. Okay, I'm going to be using some carrots, lots of garlic. I will put just a little bit of hot pepper, not much, just a little bit. Then, oh, I forgot an onion. I have to go grab an onion, totally forgot. Then I have a gigantic pile here of kale, and I have 3 different types of kale here, and all from my garden. It's raining today, but I went out there anyway to harvest my kale. And then I have some cabbage. I'm going to be using white cabbage as well in the soup. And like I said, I need onion. And for liquid, I have some broth that I made yesterday. This is leftover broth. I'm going to be using broth. So let's start cooking. The first step is I'm just going to be putting a little bit of olive oil on the bottom of my pan, and I'm going to start browning this sausage, okay? That's going to be the step number 1. So I've been researching a little bit about Tuscan cooking, and I found that this Tuscan dish, it's a very thick soup, almost like stew, is made without meat. It's usually made just with beans, and that's like the main ingredient. But I wanted to change it up. I wanted to make it a little bit more rich because that soup was usually more like of a peasant soup. But I'm going to be adding lots of delicious Italian sausage. This is not hot sausage, okay? So if you like very spicy soup, you may use hot spicy sausage, but mine is mild. In the meantime, I'm going to be preparing my sofrito, or as we call it in my language, zajarka, and that it means the things that we're going to be sauteing for the soup. So I have a large onion in here, and I'm going to be cutting up some celery and carrot and some garlic. So that is like the base of the soup, okay? Sofrito, or in my language we call it zajarka. And I'm going to be browning that, well, not browning, but just sauteing so it's nice and soft. All right, so it's browning nicely. To this, I'm going to be adding my chopped root vegetables, okay, for the sofrito, which is zajarka. I'm teaching you some Russian here. All right, so I'm going to allow this now to saute all together with the sausage nicely. And I need to run out to the garden in the dark because it's already dark. And I need to grab some thyme. I have some thyme growing in my garden. I need to go grab some because it's going to add a very nice flavor with the sausage and with the white beans. So the soups are wonderful because it's 1 pot meal. All right, 1 pot meal, and not many dishes get dirty. The other wonderful thing about soups is that all of the benefits of these vegetables will not be cooked and washed away. They will all remain in this soup, in this broth, okay? So let this cook together for a little bit until everything is nicely mellowed down and softened up. All right, everything is getting a little softer. So I'm gonna add the thyme herb. Oh, it's so fragrant when it's fresh. Goodness, it's so, so good. I don't want the stems, so I'm just ripping off the little leaves off of it. I don't want the stems in there so much. So fragrant, and it goes so well with sausage. All right, so now I'm just gonna dice the potatoes in small chunks because we want these potatoes to be comfortably fitting on the spoon. Oh, this is little, I guess when we were digging out of the garden, we stabbed a fork in it. All right, so these are my homegrown potatoes as well. And potatoes are gonna add nice creaminess to this soup, okay? All right, so now I'm just gonna be adding my diced potatoes in there, and it's a lot because I like the soup to be nice and thick. So in case somebody may want to know how much of each ingredient, when it comes to soup, I don't measure. When it comes to soup, it's really your liking, whether you like it thick or if you like it thin, and that's how much you add. At this point, we can add a little bit of salt so the vegetables marry together with a little bit of salt, okay? So let me grab some. All right, so the next step I'm going to be working on is kale. And if they're big stems, I'm going to be removing them. But if they're nice and soft, I'm just going to leave them on. So like these baby ones, I'm going to leave on. But the bigger ones, I'm just going to strip and remove. And I'm going to be chopping up all of my greens. I like to first kind of like pile them up together and make a couple of long slices to break them. Okay, sort of like that. I don't know if you guys can see that. Let me take the stem away. And then chop it into smaller pieces, because there's nothing worse when you're trying to eat soup and this gigantic piece of kale or cabbage is hanging off your spoon. It's just not very pleasant to do. I'm sure it will be delicious, but not pleasant to do. So I'm just running my knife to kind of chop it smaller. So I'm gonna cut up all of my greens right now, making sure that they're nice and ready to go into the soup. And again, these are gonna be so full of vitamins, right? And a lot of these vitamins will not be washed out if I just, drained and threw away the water. Everything's gonna be in the soup. Alrighty, so everything is nicely softening up. I'm adding my greens, and it's going to be a lot of greens because that's the intention, okay? Now, I like to add so many greens because they will down and cook down by a lot. So even though it looks like the pot is almost full, it's not going to be so in a minute. And I'm going to be adding my tomato, crushed tomato, but you can guys use a whole tomato or some other things. Well, actually, let me rinse this with a little bit of water because I cannot waste all that goodness. Ha ha ha. All right, so let me give it a little stir, and I'm gonna start working on my other things, okay? It smells really, really good. I'm just gonna turn down the heat so nothing really sticks to the bottom too much, okay? Because we don't want to burn soup. All right, so there's still no liquid in here so much, so let me add some liquid. So I have some leftover broth that I made the other day, actually yesterday. And you see that little ring on top? That's the fat that accumulated. And guess what? I'm not shy of fat. It's gonna go in here as well. So let this all come to a boil, okay? Let this all come to a boil. And I'm gonna start working on my little white cannellini, I think that's how I pronounce it, cannellini beans. All right, so I just took, these are, by the way, canned, cooked already beans, so they're not dry beans. I'm gonna be adding a little bit of water to that because it will be easier for me to make them nice and creamy. If you don't have an immersion blender, you can always use a potato masher. All right. So this is going to be like that milky white looking substance that's going to be important in making the soup nice and thick. And that's the star of the show. When my husband took me to Italy back in April for my birthday, we spent some time in Tuscany and in Florence. Let me tell you, that was an absolute joy to eat fresh food made in season, cooked to perfection, and everything was just so colorful and flavorful. So I'm inspired to bring that to my family today. So let me go ahead and add these beans and into the soup. All right, let's stir all this goodness. And the colors are amazing and the aroma is amazing. So now I'm gonna let this cook all together until the potatoes are soft and the kale is thoroughly cooked, okay? So notice how it's very, very thick soup. At the end, I will taste for salt, for pepper, but remember I added a little bit of hot pepper in there. So I'm going to taste it for salt, for pepper. And if you guys have watched me for some time, you know that I like to add garlic at the end. So some of the garlic was included in sofrito, but some of the garlic I'm going to crush it and add at the end once the heat already turned off. But in the meantime, let this bad boy go and cook. It's gonna be delicious dinner tonight, everyone. Delicious. All right, this goodness been cooking now for about half an hour, and I'm going to turn it off, and I'm going to be adding some black pepper to taste, and I'm going to taste it to see if I need to add any more salt. All right, because you don't want to over salt it, but you know, it has to have the flavor. So I'm going to check for flavor. Let me just do a little bit scoop here. Oh my goodness, I think it's perfect. I don't think it needs anything else except for the heat already off. I turned off the heat. And now I'm gonna be adding the garlic. And the reason why I like to add the garlic later, because I don't wanna kill all of the good ingredients or components of garlic, because the flu season is right upon us and we need to make sure that our immune system is up to par and kicking on all, firing on all cylinders. So I'm just gonna be putting my garlic here now once the heat is already turned off, even though it's hot, and it's gonna mellow down a little bit in the soup, but it's no longer boiling, okay? So I'm just gonna stir that up and I'm gonna be serving it for dinner. Look at this, isn't this gorgeous? I'm just gonna drizzle a little bit of extra virgin olive oil on top, just like this. Nice fragrant oil. And you could put just a little bit of either pecorino romano or grated Parmesan cheese and enjoy. So I'm gonna give it a taste. It's super hot, so I really should be waiting, but I can't wait. Oh, it's hot. I wanna go back to Italy. Can we go back, babe? I'll pay for the tickets. Oh my gosh, this is so good. I'm gonna cry. So good. So friends, if you have not cooked anything Italian, start cooking now. And this dish is so simple to make. It's so good, it's so hearty, it's starchy because of all those beans, but it's gonna fill up your belly on a cold winter night. So friends, be encouraged and try something new.